Ever get that icky feeling when a song you love, suddenly becomes hard to listen to, like you find a stain on your favorite shirt?
Yeah.
That's what we're tackling in this deep dive, Tainted Tunes. Um, those songs that have become, well, kind of controversial because of the artists who made them.
Right.
We've got a stack of articles and research, all inspired by this Watch Mojo video listing the top 10 great songs ruined by a disgraced musician.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Buckle up. We're about to uncover some wild stories
Oh.
behind huge E-hits.
Okay.
From Kanye to the Beach Boys to a song you've probably heard at every sporting event.
It's amazing, isn't it, how a song's meaning can, completely change based on what we learn about the artist?
Yeah.
What was once a feel-good anthem can suddenly feel tainted, almost like you're hearing it with new ears.
Totally. And what's tricky is how tainted a song feels can really depend on, I guess, what the artist did and honestly how you feel about it,
Right.
The Watch Mojo list really highlights that spectrum.
Yeah,
With, varying degrees of controversy.
absolutely. On one end of the spectrum, you have a case like Kanye West's Stronger. It was a massive hit, a groundbreaking blend of hip-hop and electronica.
I loved that song.
Many found it incredibly empowering, a celebration of resilience and self-belief.
But now it's hard to ignore the baggage that comes with it.
Yeah.
Kanye's made some extremely controversial statements
Yeah.
and aligned himself with some equally controversial figures.
Right.
For some people, that's enough to make them question if they can even still enjoy Stronger the same way.
Exactly. And it raises questions about, the role of the audience in all of this. Do we have a responsibility to stop listening to music by artists we disagree with, even if we still love the music itself?
Right.
Or can we just separate the art from the artist and continue to enjoy the work while, condemning the actions?
It's a real dilemma, with no easy answers.
Yeah.
And as you move along the spectrum, you encounter situations where the allegations against the artist are, far more serious.
Yeah.
It makes separating art and artist even more difficult.
Definitely.
Take Ryan Adams, for example. His song, New York, New York, was released right after 9/11
I remember that.
and quickly became an anthem for the city's strength and resilience.
It did.
But then, multiple women came forward with allegations of sexual misconduct against Adams.
Wow.
Some even accused him of, using his music career to manipulate and abuse them.
That's awful.
Suddenly, a song about resilience and hope felt, irrevocably linked to exploitation and abuse. It's hard to hear it the same way again.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Especially because New York meant so much to so many people.
It really did.
And it makes you wonder, are there, subtle clues within Adams' music that might, foreshadow these later actions?
Interesting.
Did we miss something?
Don't know.
Could analyzing the lyrics or musical style, shed light on these darker tendencies?
That's a really interesting point. It highlights the potential for, deeper analysis beyond just listing the controversies.
Yeah, right.
It's about exploring the interplay between the music itself and the artist's actions, trying to understand if there are any connections or, dissonances.
Right. Is it possible the music itself was, in a way, a warning sign? It definitely adds another layer to this whole discussion.
It does.
And then, on the extreme end of this spectrum, there are cases where the artist's actions are so horrifying, so unforgivable, that the music, it becomes completely unlistenable for many.
It's true.
A case in point is the band Lost Prophets.
Oh, yeah.
Their song Last Train Home was a huge hit. But when lead singer Ian Watkins was convicted of, horrific crimes against children, it just shattered the band's image and effectively ended their career.
It did.
For many fans, listening to Lost Prophets became impossible.
I can see why.
It's like the music itself became a, trigger.
Right.
A reminder of the unimaginable acts committed by the person who created it.
It's chilling. A chilling example of how completely an artist's actions can just taint their art,
Yeah.
leaving fans grappling with feelings of betrayal, disgust, and, profound sadness. It's a situation where separating the art from the artist seems completely impossible.
And speaking of impossible to separate, did you know the Beach Boys have a song with a connection to Charles Manson?
Yeah, that's a strange one. It's actually a pretty mellow song called Never Learn Not to Love, which on its surface sounds innocent enough.
Right.
But it's actually adapted from a Charles Manson song, Cease to Exist.
Knowing that adds, a seriously creepy layer to a song that was already kind of haunting.
It does.
It makes you think about Manson's influence and how it might have seeped into the Beach Boys' music, even unintentionally. It's unsettling, to say the least.
And it forces us to consider how much context matters when we're, engaging with art.
For sure.
Can we truly appreciate a piece of music without knowing its full history? Its origins, the influences that shaped it.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that context throws a wrench in things, like with Lady Gaga's Do What You Want.
Yeah.
It featured R. Kelly, which even at the time was a controversial choice.
R. Kelly was already facing numerous allegations of sexual abuse and misconduct, the irony of his presence on a song about exploitation and control.
Yeah.
And Gaga initially defending her decision, it wasn't lost on people. It sparked a lot of debate.
It did. It's a prime example of how an artist's past actions can, cast a shadow over their work, even if that work seems to contradict those actions.
Right.
Gaga eventually acknowledged this and apologized for the collaboration. The version with R. Kelly was pulled from streaming services and replaced with a version featuring Christina Aguilera.
It was. It demonstrates a growing awareness and accountability within the music industry, acknowledging that you can't just brush these issues under the rug. And it raises the question of what responsibility, if any, streaming services have and how they present music by controversial artists. Should they include warnings or disclaimers?
Yeah.
Should they remove the music altogether?
That's a complex issue. And speaking of complex, let's talk about a song that was so ubiquitous it was almost impossible to escape. Gary Glitter's Rock and Roll Part 2. You definitely heard it.
Oh, yeah. It was the anthem.
Mm-hmm.
You'd hear it at, pretty much every sporting event.
Oh, for sure.
Especially in the U.S., NFL, NHL, you name it.
Yeah.
It was synonymous with, excitement, energy, good times.
Yeah, it's hard to even imagine a sporting event without it.
I know.
But then the truth about Gary Glitter came out.
Oh, right.
He was convicted of, multiple sex offenses involving minors.
Yeah.
It completely changed the way people heard that song.
It did.
Organizations started pulling it from their playlists.
Rightfully so.
It went from a feel-good anthem
Yeah.
to a source of, discomfort, even disgust.
Yeah. Almost overnight.
The contrast between its former association with, joyful celebration and the dark reality of Glitter's actions is just, it's jarring.
It really is.
It's a powerful example of how quickly public perception can shift, how something so deeply ingrained in our culture can become, problematic, even untouchable.
Yeah.
And it brings us back to that central question. Can you ever truly separate the art from the artist?
It's a question that's been debated for centuries.
Right.
And it's become even more complex in the age of social media.
Oh, absolutely.
Where we have so much access to, artists' personal lives. We're constantly bombarded with information, and it's hard to ignore it.
For sure.
Especially when it involves something as serious as, abuse or exploitation.
It's this information becomes another layer of the music itself, whether we want it to or not.
Right.
And it forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths.
Yeah.
What do you do when an artist you admire does something reprehensible? Do you stop listening to their music? Do you try to separate the art from the artist and continue to enjoy it?
There are no easy answers.
I know, right?
And it's something that each listener has to grapple with on their own.
Yeah.
Some people might find it impossible to listen to Lost Prophets, for example, given the severity of Ian Watkins' crimes.
Totally.
While others might still be able to enjoy Kanye West's music, even though they, vehemently disagree with his views.
It's true.
It's such a personal decision, and there are so many shades of gray in between.
Absolutely. Think about someone like Jerry Lee Lewis.
Oh, yeah.
His song, Whole Lotta Shakin' Going On, is rock and roll classic.
For sure.
It catapulted him to fame.
It did.
But then, just a year later, a scandal erupted.
Oh.
He married his 13-year-old cousin.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was that close in age.
Talk about a scandal.
It pretty much derailed his career for a while, right?
It definitely had a significant impact, both on his career and on how people perceived his music.
Right.
Whole Lotta Shakin' Going On took on a whole new meaning for many. The energy and excitement that once defined the song were now overshadowed by this, disturbing revelation.
Yeah. It makes you think about how these controversies affect the way we experience the music itself.
For sure.
Does knowing about an artist's actions actually change how a song sounds to our ears? Does it taint the experience?
Right. Yeah.
Or can we still appreciate the craft, the
Yeah.
emotion, the, pure musicality, even if we condemn the artist's actions.
It's fascinating how subjective it can be.
It is.
Some people might find it impossible to, like, disassociate the art from the artist.
I can see that.
For them, the knowledge of the artist's wrongdoing completely alters the listening experience,
Right.
leaving them unable to enjoy the music in the same way.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like the music itself becomes a reminder of the artist's transgression, like a constant echo of their bad choices. But for others, it's possible to compartmentalize. They can still appreciate the artistry, the technical skill,
Yeah.
the emotional resonance of the music, even while acknowledging and condemning the artist's behavior.
Yeah.
It's a way of separating the creator from the creation, allowing them to continue to enjoy the art for what it is.
Right.
And ultimately, there's no right or wrong answer.
No.
It's a personal dilemma, a choice each listener has to make based on their own values and how they choose to engage with art in the face of these, complexities.
It's like being forced to confront the idea that sometimes the things we love are created by people who are, well, deeply flawed.
Totally.
And that can be a very uncomfortable realization.
It definitely challenges our perceptions and forces us to reconsider our relationship with art.
It does.
Do we hold our favorite artists to a higher standard?
Mm-hmm.
Do we expect them to be role models?
Yeah.
Or can we accept that they're, human beings capable of both great art and terrible actions?
For sure.
And how does that affect the legacy of their work?
Right.
Does it diminish their achievements?
Right.
Or can we still appreciate their contributions to music while acknowledging the harm they've caused?
These are questions without easy answers.
Yeah.
And they force us to confront some uncomfortable truths about, I guess, ourselves and the world around us.
It's not always a fun conversation to have, but it's a necessary one.
Yeah, it is.
Especially today's world, where these kinds of controversies seem to be more and more common.
It's true.
So where does all of this leave us? What's the takeaway?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the main takeaway is just that there are no easy answers.
Right.
We've, uncovered some wild stories and explored some heavy stuff. And it's clear that the music we love can be deeply affected by the actions of the people who created it.
Yeah, we've really been forced to grapple with some difficult questions about morality, accountability, and the very nature of, art itself.
For sure.
It's about confronting those uncomfortable truths and deciding how we want to engage with music in light of those, I guess, complexities.
And honestly, it's a conversation that goes beyond just music, right?
Yeah. It applies to all forms of art, even beyond that.
Right.
We're living in a world where information is, readily available.
It is.
Where we can learn so much about the people behind the things we consume.
Yeah.
Whether it's music, movies, books, or even the products we buy.
Right. It's about recognizing that complexity and understanding that there's no, one-size-fits-all answer.
Totally.
It's a personal journey, and it's a conversation that we, as a society, I think, need to keep having.
It is. This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I hope it's done the same for you.
I hope so.
What are some songs that you struggled with because of the artist?
Right.
Have your listening habits changed?
And as you continue to explore your own, musical landscape, remember that critical thinking and open dialogue are crucial tools for navigating these complexities. It's engaging with the art, engaging with the context, and ultimately deciding what feels right for you.
So well said. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the complicated world of tainted tunes.
It was my pleasure.
Keep those ears open and those minds engaged.